welcome to episode 58 of the Leap Home Permanent Wave.
In this week's episode, Sam has to save a woman and her son from being killed after the boy witnesses a murder. Under pressure from the police to assist their investigations, Sam looks to persuade a terrified mother to let her child cooperate. But can he figure out the true villain in time? Or will the frightened family be eliminated before he can stop it?
All good little boys have got to go to sleep.
Good evening, Ian. How are things?
So, how are you?
A good boy.
Off to sleep then? Just like the listeners.
What do you think of this week's episode?
Thought it was familiar in some ways.
Very much.
Her charm in particular. Little bits of one strobe over the line. Famous guest star. Maybe the most famous guest star.
Potentially, yeah, up there. I mean, Terry Hatcher, I don't know.
Yeah, there's arguments to be made, but I would say this is the one.
Okay, fair enough.
And before we get into the bits and pieces of the episode, some social media promotional work that we have to do. We're at Leap Home Podcast on all your social media channels. You can come and chat to us there. We will chat back if we like you. You can go to theleaphome.com where our episodes have show notes and the opportunity to leave your comments. And if you want to listen to next week's episode 1 week early, i.e. now, head to our Columbo Podcast Productions YouTube channel where it is already available and you can enjoy it and like, subscribe and rate and review and all those things that we enjoy.
Talking of JGL, as I like to call him.
Yeah.
He was in Poker Face, wasn't he?
Oh, there's a good podcast about that. Well, there's not, but there's a sub-podcast about it.
Their substandard one.
No, a sub-podcast.
What's a sub-podcast?
It's not got its own show, but it is on another feed.
Ah, right. What feed is it on?
The Columbo Podcast
Okay.
feed.
What's it about?
Poker Face.
Oh, okay.
So there's 10 episodes of Poker Face, and there's I think we just did 10, didn't we? We didn't do a wrap-up one.
Oh, very good show.
It was a very good show.
Really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to season 2.
Hopefully soon.
In fact, that's why everyone knows that. This is why we stopped. We took a break and...
well, yeah, but no one knows if we actually went through with it or not if they didn't listen.
That's the point, yeah.
If you like the idea or have seen and liked Poker Face, then check out the Columbo Podcast episodes on it. Shall we get back to Quantum Leap?
Let's crack on.
After the usual intro, we get the same sort of stinger bit that we saw at the end of last week's episode where Sam allows a child called Kyle, he's a kid with a leg brace on, asks if he can go to Phil's for some candy, and that is authorised by Sam.
Sounds a bit dodgy.
Well...
Do you want to see some puppies? Some candy, young boy?
I don't think it's that weird that a child would go to a shop for some sweets.
No, it's not. No.
But Sam is immediately told by his colleague, who we later learns is a woman called Chloe, that this child's mother never lets him out alone, and suddenly they hear gunshots.
They do. Now, is Chloe a colleague or more of a sort of an office manager type? Salon manager type?
I think Sam works in the salon.
Yeah.
And so does Chloe. That makes them colleagues.
Is it Sam's salon?
I'm not 100% sure who owns the salon.
No, I think it is.
It's possibly his
because
salon.
of the way that people fawn over him.
Yes, and they talk about people who live with him have moved into his flat above the salon later on.
Okay.
After the usual credits, everybody in the salon ducks for cover.
Yeah, we return to see Sam whip off his apron to reveal a pair of tight leather trousers before running to the front of the shop to help Kyle, who is lying on the ground with a shooter firing a gun into the place.
Yeah, I was a bit discombobulated here because he's not run to the front of the salon, which is what I thought watching it.
I was confused as well. It seems to be a different shop, but it does look like
we never see him outside.
No. I thought it was effectively the same space. Perhaps the pharmacy rented the open. I don't know.
Or it could be like a strip mall type arrangement. I don't know how it works, but we don't see Sam go outside, but we do learn that he's arrived at this pharmacy where Kyle has gone, the child.
And after getting him to some sort of safety and believing the gunman to have left, Sam gets up and does his floppy side-to-side run past a pool of blood and a dead old man.
Where does he think he's going?
I don't know. What's he chasing down the gunman?
Who has a gun?
Yeah, idiot. Yeah, he ends up outside in the back streets, and then, yeah, I've taken a note here. Well, really stupid and risky. What if he just gets shot?
Yeah,
dead.
That's it over.
End of the show.
Some time passes, and outside we hear Sam in voiceover reflecting that he leaped in a bit too late this time.
Later on, we are outside.
It's kind of a courtyard area.
Yeah.
Presumably just outside both the salon and the pharmacist.
The cops are on the scene, and after hearing the old man was shot through the heart, we see that it's what date?
It's June the 2nd, 1983.
And we see the body being taken away in a bag. I thought it was quite funny.
Okay.
In Time of the Monkeys and Poker Face, actually, there's a great use of body bag zipping for comedic value.
Yes, that's absolutely the case. And if you want to hear more about that...
Don't overdo it.
At this point, Kyle has a bit of a flashback, I think, to the killing.
Yes, before the woman from earlier, Chloe, expresses her disbelief that someone shot Phil, and also her annoyance that it's now going to be hard to get prescription refills. So Phil is the pharmacist.
Yes.
In front of the salon. This is hardly Kyle going outside.
Yeah, he's barely gone anywhere.
But I think that, I suppose, does highlight his mother's perhaps overprotectiveness.
Yeah, what are the chances that the one time he's allowed out, there's a shooting?
Well, that's him. I mean, forever that's in her mind now. That's been set. I told you this would happen. She totters off Chloe. She's a bit of a dolly bird type.
Ditzy.
Yeah. And Kyle also wonders who could do this to Phil. He was a nice old man, and all Sam can respond with is that sometimes bad things happen to good people.
Well, Sam doesn't really know what's going on yet, so I suppose he needs to play his cards relatively safe.
For sure. I mean, he doesn't know that Phil's a good person. In fact, perhaps he isn't.
Who knows? Somebody knows, but not Sam yet. But then it doesn't always stop him from jumping into things.
No.
Anyhow, at this point, Kyle's mother, Laura, arrives, and Kyle tells her that he saw who shot Phil, which makes her furious.
Well, she's not happy and blames Sam for not being with him and starts to lead Kyle off as she reminds Sam he promised not to let him out of his sight. And we understand her sort of views on caring for her son here. It's a bit much.
Yes, smothering. Sam says that he thought it would be okay, but is then told that he didn't think at all.
She is in tears and mentions how he's not allowed out alone. And Kyle doesn't appreciate this position, claiming that Frank thinks he can do things by himself just now. Obviously, this hasn't been...
You should say who Frank is, so Sam is Frank.
Yes.
And Kyle, the child, says that Frank agrees that he can do some things by himself, but Laura, at this point, pulls out the "you're not his father" card.
Yeah, a bit cold, a bit harsh. She asks him if the police know that it was Kyle or what Kyle saw, and then whisks him back inside when Sam confirms that they haven't as yet spoken to the boy.
Yes, Sam's asked him to wait, but she's not really interested in waiting. She grabs Kyle and heads into the salon. Yeah,
Sam follows and insists that Kyle has to be a grass. You've got to snitch.
Of course he does.
But in near tears, she states that she has been through this before and can't do it again. She is really unlucky, isn't she? Kyle's very unlucky.
We do find out more about this shortly, don't we?
Yeah.
Chloe checks in on Sam after Laura and Kyle head up the stairs and tells him that he needs to call Mrs. Lamb. I'm sure that's a customer.
Yes.
Detective Ward shows up at this point. He's an interesting looking character.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite an 80s cop.
Yeah. Yeah, he maybe fits in the aesthetic, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
He asks Sam whether he can identify the shooter, but he cannot describe him. However, he's able to say that he used a silencer and fired 2 shots, but the way he explains it doesn't make any sense.
Why not?
He talks about him being behind him and then not hearing the 2 shots, but knowing it was 2 shots, and I don't think it adds up.
Okay.
Doesn't matter though.
In any case, Ward gives him his home number, should he remember anything. But before he leaves, he mentioned that there's a kid with a leg brace. I think someone else's.
Yeah, a woman
Kyle,
has told him that she saw this child with the leg brace going into the store, so he must be outside.
So yeah, Sam immediately confirms this.
Yeah,
it's his son, it's his girlfriend's son. He just straight in there. The cops have always to be trusted.
Absolutely.
No such thing as a bad cop.
No.
We all know that.
No bad apples.
The good guys.
Ward insists that he will need to speak to Kyle, but Sam says he's gone with his mother.
Yeah, I think he's asked to provide his address.
It gets a bit awkward here.
Very awkward, and it doesn't get any less awkward.
No, when he finds it and tells him and it's the address they're at. the upstairs flat.
Yeah, Ward assumes that he's just reluctant to get involved and so pressurises him with a gentle threat before a relieved Sam does find this address in his wallet. So it's Cannon Drive. It's quite interesting. So that runs, I checked this out, that runs parallel. It's a street or two over from Rodeo.
Okay. Sam tries to cover his idiocy by saying that his nerves are shot, but Ward isn't in any way impressed by this. Tells him that he'll be in touch and leaves.
Yeah, he's chewing a bit of gum. Again, that's quite... You probably wouldn't do that these days. It's not very professional.
No. Upstairs in the...
Yeah, the apartment bedroom. Sam is... he's playing Future Boy with Kyle. A little nod to a previous episode.
Yeah.
As Al watches on, I think Kyle's gone to his bed. This is
Yeah, we heard this at the top of the show because Sam, as usual, just talks to Al when there's other folk around that can hear him. And it confuses Kyle a little bit.
It does, yeah.
And that's where you get the Al, good boys must go to bed. But although he's willing to go to bed, Kyle does not want his light turned out.
No, he realises he is frightened, but Sam assures him that the man won't come back and hurt him. That's quite... Well, I suppose you can't really say anything else, but he can't...
Yeah, he does. He flat out lies to him. He says he's far away and not coming for him, which is the opposite of what's true.
He then asks if he saw the man who killed Phil, but before he can answer, Laura enters to read a bedtime story, which allows Sam to leave and speak with Al.
Nice pad. Sort of. I'm a hairdresser. Yeah, you're not just a hairdresser. You are the hairdresser.
Frank Bianca.
Yeah, well, he changed his name. You can't become the hottest hairstylist in Beverly Hills with a name like Maurice Lipschitz.
This is a nightmare.
What are you complaining about? All day long, all these gorgeous women dressed in these little bitty wrap robes covering the little lacy things.
Al.
And their only desire is for you to pamper them and play with their... Al. With their hair. With their hair.
The only thing I played with today was a dead body, a terrified little boy, and a distraught mother.
Yeah, well, the body was Phil Hartman, local pharmacist.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that due to my timing, I didn't leap in to stop Phil's murder.
No, but Ziggy says it's 86% you're here to find the killer.
Well, I didn't see him, but I think Kyle did.
No, according to police reports, he never identified the
That's
murderer.
because his mother never let him talk to the police.
Well, she never had a chance.
What do you mean?
They murdered her, too.
Was in love with her. You understand? Kind of. I know, it's a little difficult.
Phil Hartman, I assume you've got some trivia on that for us.
One liner, which I can give you now if you want.
Sure.
There was a Phil Hartman in real life also got murdered.
Yes.
I think by his wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see, there was a Phil
Actor.
Hartman in real life. He was a very, very famous
Yes.
Saturday Night Live and all sorts of movies. Yeah.
Yes.
In fact, he was in The Simpsons as well.
But he died after this was made, right?
Yes, I think it would have been after this, yeah.
So Al goes on from this conversation to explain that Laura's husband witnessed a mob hit in New Jersey and was gunned down before he could testify.
That is quite unfortunate.
A bit similar to the episode with the priest.
Yeah.
So Al leaves at this point to find more information, and Laura comes back through.
Yeah, she is worried that this event will bring back the night terrors Kyle had after his dad was killed. I'd say there's probably a decent chance that would be the case, but admits that he hasn't experienced them since Sam began living with them, or they began living with Sam.
Yeah, he makes them feel safe, and he says that's what he's there for.
Yeah, she snuggles up after telling him this, and I think the vulnerability klaxon goes off at this point, certainly for me anyway.
She thanks Sam for not telling the police about Kyle, which he did, but now lies about,
Yes.
saying that he's not sure he did the right thing not telling them. They might never find the killer without Kyle's help.
He's such a square, Sam. He has to tell the police. He has to try and persuade her to do that as well. And often, just keep your mouth shut. It's quite often the best thing you should do in these circumstances.
Don't get involved.
Not necessarily if you want to find or have people, prosecuted, but if you just want to keep yourself safe.
Yeah, which is what she wants.
Yes. Yeah, she doesn't care about Phil.
And she says so. She just wants to protect Kyle. And Sam at this point agrees, although obviously doesn't actually agree.
Yeah, she gives him a well-received kiss before suggesting that they get some rest as tomorrow is his busiest day in the salon, a point which shocks Sam.
Yes.
So, we return to the salon where we see a nervous Sam in the mirror with a brilliant curly mullet and a customer flirting with him.
This made me think of Edward Scissorhands when he's doing all the women's hair.
Okay.
This woman tells Sam to do whatever you want to her hair because she knows that he is the expert.
Al has arrived and does his thing of trying to talk Sam through a skill.
Although he does accept he doesn't have any knowledge to impart really in this.
Fortunately, on this occasion, all he has to do is make tiny snips and then offer that he can't improve upon perfection. And this compliment, this...
Nobody would buy that compliment.
No.
You'd be like, no, I'm paying you $100.
No, it'd be more than $100 even back then in that type of salon, I'd have thought, yeah. But I think a lot of the time, in fairness, in this scenario, this sort of perhaps cliched scenario in the TV and movies, in this part of the world, it's more about the experience. It's not, you're not going there for your hair to be changed.
She just sat there for a minute.
Yeah, but then she'll
want more.
Yeah, but she'll be hanging out with other people. Perhaps she'll meet and talk to her friends that maybe go there every week. Yes, it's not a case of.
She calls him a genius and gets very disappointed when he tells her that he's getting on fine with his girlfriend.
Yes. He then has to deal with Chloe.
She's a bit up to high dough here. She's got a lot of bottles. She wants to know what he's done to someone's hair.
Yeah, I think he may have left in some dye or perm solution.
Some kind of treatment. Mm-hmm. At this point, twins show up. I think Sam has to decide which one to see first.
Yeah, I think it's the Van Burke sisters. Yeah, she's not impressed with Sam's response.
He wants to see them both together.
I think he repeated this from, I think Al said this, yeah.
However, Sam then completely changes his personality.
He goes full Al here. Al himself nearly explodes when they walk over and we see that they are stereotypical 80s LA blondes who tease him about doing them both at the same time.
Yes, and Sam starts to play along, starts nuzzling them. And
Sam's just, he can't.
Al makes a reference to the leap back, saying, "Have you still got that bit of me in you?"
Yes.
And yeah, it's.
And I think also, I mean, again, I'm not entirely convinced that this will be an exaggeration of how people were, but even if it's an exaggeration, even if only a portion of this actually happened, it's just really inappropriate for,
a service provider
to be in any way doing this type of acting in this way.
I found it hard to believe that Sam would do this, even to wind up Al. It's just not his nature.
No.
It's just they've completely changed how he would handle the situation.
Yeah.
Anyway, he does admit that he is winding Al up, who is particularly upset because he's never had twins of his own.
He leads them off, telling them to slip into robes and he will wash and rinse them, which is a little bit creepy as well, before doing something nasty with their hair or in their hair.
Don't want to know.
This does impress Al and also frustrate him in equal amounts as we see that he's effectively a drooling, tortured hologram.
Sam tells Al that this is because he gets nagged whether he resists women or not. I don't think the person who wrote this has really
understood
what happened in the other episode.
Yeah.
Anyhow, Laura shows up with a...
No, before that.
Okay.
Al ignores Sam's request or order not to go into the changing rooms.
Yes. Immediately nips back with a report.
Yeah, they are very much identical.
Apparently. So now Laura shows up with a pink pantsuit for Chloe. And they rush off, leaving Sam with Kyle. So obviously Laura's happy with Sam to look after Kyle again.
But also I think at this point, Al tells Sam that they do sort of get back to business, that he has to get Kyle to talk to the cops.
Apparently.
In fact, Sam has an idea.
What's his idea?
Well, he says that he will just get Kyle to describe the killer to him, and then he will tell the cops that it was him that witnessed it. But Al says, no, there's a problem here because you would not be able to pick him out of a lineup if that was the case. And this, I'm sure I've discussed this before on the podcast. I'm not sure which podcast. It reminded me very much of Steve Guttenberg's best movie, little known The Bedroom Window, where the same thing happens. His lover, who he's having an affair with, witnesses a murder, and rather than him her admitting to being at his place, he says, I'll just tell the cops it's cool. And then that sets off a whole chain of events where, things get messy.
No doubt.
Very good movie.
Okay.
In any case, just then we hear a scream of delight, and as you mentioned, this is because Laura and Kyle have arrived with a new dress for Chloe. Yes.
So, like I said, Laura and Chloe rush off, leaving Sam with Kyle. and he takes a break from his work and heads outside with the boy.
Hey, Frank, I made up a Captain Galaxy story.
You did?
Yeah, you want to hear it?
Well,
Sam,
Sure, why not? I'd
Go
love to
for it.
hear it.
Ask him now because she might come out any
but
minute
first,
looking for him.
I want you to finish telling me about the man you saw yesterday.
What man?
The man who killed Phil.
I can't. It makes me afraid.
Look, I'm not gonna let anybody hurt you, okay? Sit down over here. All I want you to do is just tell me what this man looked like, that's all.
I don't remember.
Oh, come on, kid. You can remember.
Okay, let's forget about that, all right? Close your eyes. I'm gonna tell you another story.
A future boy?
Close your eyes. No, this is a story about Future Boy's best friend, Al.
Best friend. Oh, thanks.
Al is invisible.
Really?
Right. Everywhere he goes, nobody can see him.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and yesterday he walked into Phil's.
Hey, well, no, actually, I didn't. I was with this girl that works in the car wash, and the water was... Sorry.
He walked into Phil's, and none of the people inside could see him.
Could I be invisible?
Absolutely. You were there, totally invisible, moving through the pharmacy with your good buddy Al. Nobody could see you, nobody could hear you. And then all of a sudden you saw Phil. And Phil was yelling at
A man?
a man.
In a suit.
Right, a man in a suit. And he said,
He was telling him that he didn't need any more of his junk money.
Junk bonds, maybe?
junk or junkie?
Junkie. He didn't need any more of his junkie money.
Kyle?
Uh-oh.
Laura's onto him.
Yeah, she's angry with Sam and takes Kyle away as Al advises him not to go after him at this point. It wouldn't be a good decision. But before I forget, Ward the cop, yeah, he is very 80s, and I think he would suit a little rat tail ponytail he used to get back then.
Nobody suits a rat tail. Nobody suits a rat tail.
No one does. But back then, used to have it, these tiny little ponytails.
They would fit in.
Yeah. Maybe not even a rat tail, but just a very small, with a suit, chewing gum.
There's an argument here about whose fault everything is. Laura saying Sam had promised not to interrogate Kyle, and then Sam saying, I didn't. And then Kyle saying it's my fault, and Laura says it's not your fault, it's his, and then they leave. This gives an opportunity to Sam and Al to discuss the new information that Kyle's provided.
Yeah, Sam asks him if he thinks that Phil was selling drugs illegally, but Al, at first, he reels off a list of seemingly reputable activities and interests before noting that he did go bankrupt, but managed to pay back all his debts and died with, I think, $200,000 in his account.
Yes, he'd received $600,000 from a company called Eloch, which I presume is spelled E-L-O-C-H.
Yeah. Anyway, this immediately confirms that drugs were involved as far as Sam is concerned. And
well, they come up with their own little story about what must have happened, and assume it's true. He must have been supplying drugs, and then when he paid off his debt, tried to stop it, and then they shot him.
It's a quantum leap of leapery.
Yes, massive lunge into the unknown.
Back in the salon, we catch up with Sam telling Ward of this theory.
Oh yeah, exactly. This is more ridiculousness. Oh, I can't tell you where I got this information, but it's definitely true.
And he suspiciously doesn't seem that interested, and is more concerned with.
Well, is it suspicious? Sam's just made up nonsense with no supporting evidence. So definitely, this is definitely true.
But what he should be saying is, okay, let's talk through this. Where he just brushes it aside.
He's more interested in witnesses.
Mm-hmm. He wants
He's
to
an
speak
old school cop.
Yeah.
Yeah, as you say, he needs to speak to Kyle. He wants him brought into the police station. He promises not to scare him.
I don't really understand this, considering what we come to learn. But anyway, Sam, he starts to tell him of the previous trauma, but Ward admits that he already knows this as he ran a background check, but insists that he has to bring him and Laura in. It's not really Sam's responsibility. Why are you harassing Sam?
Well, he's the one that will talk to him.
I would just say, listen, nothing to do with me.
Leave him alone.
Yeah, go and find Kyle yourself and Laura.
I think he intuits that Sam doesn't want the police at their door.
Sure, but again, and that's fine. Sam doesn't have to cooperate.
Yeah.
He's not the witness, and he's not the father.
No, but if he doesn't, then they're going to show up at the flat, and he doesn't want that either.
Later, at the
apartment,
Sam admits to Laura that he did in fact tell the cops about Kyle, and as expected, this doesn't go down well.
No. There's a knock at the door and they assume it might well be the police.
This was very suspicious. It's not the police, it's Chloe. She's turned up with a Rubik's Cube.
Yes, it's a new gadget she wants Kyle to help her with.
Yeah. Now, I'm reckoning they're trying to write this or play this as an episode with a big twist, but I'm sorry, at this point I knew everyone who was involved in this.
Did you?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Okay.
I mean, I was suspicious about one of them,
Right.
not the other.
Right.
They have some basic chat here before there is a gunshot.
Yeah, it comes from through the window.
And it's Chloe who gets shot.
It is, yeah. They hit the floor in panic. But Sam reassures her it's just a flesh wound. I'm not listening to you, the hairdresser.
Yeah.
And that's a weird thing. Al says that he swears they didn't know this was going to happen. It's a really odd thing to say.
Because he's assuming this might be where they die.
Yeah.
But his hand link is telling him they don't die for another...
Yeah, understand that. He got it wrong, but he's like, I swear I didn't know this, as if Sam would think that
you've
somehow...
tricked him into getting killed.
Uh-huh.
Or you could have warned him about this, yeah. Al continues to be useless by going to catch the shooter and finding nothing.
Yeah, as he gets centred on the rooftop where they assume the shooter was, Sam crawls over to the phone and is trying to call 911, but stops when an insistent Laura tells him that she'll go on the run if he does so.
This is where she took it too far, I think. It's fair enough to be paranoid, but when someone's literally shooting in your window,
yeah, you need to...
You probably should phone the police.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think that's being too conservative.
And Sam reluctantly agrees. Why don't you just make the call and then block them from leaving? Just block the door and say, no, I'm sorry.
I don't know. Anyway, outside, Sam goes up on the roof for some reason, and Al tells him that he's found nothing, but history has been changed.
It has, but see, that's the question. Why would Sam go out there and put himself at risk?
I don't know. The same as why we chased after the gunman at the start.
Al's went out to sea, wait for him to come back and tell you.
Yeah. Well, I suppose what he's imagining is Al would have told me if I get killed, so I would be safe. Maybe. Or maybe he's not even thinking that far.
No.
Anyhow, yes, Al's update is that Kyle's body is no longer found on the road.
Oh, that's good.
He just disappears completely.
That's not so. Well, it's better, isn't
they
it?
might be okay.
Yeah, there's no body.
They should just assume they're okay. That's it.
End of leap. Resume.
Back inside, Sam, with no basis to do this whatsoever, tells everybody that whoever the shooter was has gone.
And do they think they're going to listen to him? Or accept that, or be confident that he's right?
Exactly.
There's someone trying to kill you with a gun outside. Why would they not come back? Especially when you've not called the cops.
Yeah.
So they might be waiting for the sirens and they don't appear. It's like, okay, I'm going for a round 2.
He then succumbs to his most conservative instincts by yelling at Laura and telling her that if she had cooperated with the police, the killer would definitely have been caught before this happened.
Yes.
Where is this coming from?
Not only that, but I think that when she says no, he leverages their home. Yeah. So he says, you're living with me, as if to say, well, if you don't do it, you're out in the street.
People in this house, grass.
Yeah, it's a real dick move. He tries to pressurise her with homelessness.
Yeah.
But she doesn't.
It's
she says, well, that's fine, I'll just leave.
Yeah, well, quite right.
Yeah, she's happy to go on the run. She's already told you that.
Yeah. Anyhow, he manages to get her to back down somehow and allow him to speak to Kyle rather than send him to bed.
Well, I think he's in tears because his mother and Sam are arguing here.
Yeah. Anyway, she goes away.
I think she goes to get an aspirin.
Possibly. And Kyle tells Sam it was definitely a white man, but he's really struggling for specifics.
Yeah. In fairness, I think at this point what's happened is after Kyle has started crying and she realises the atmosphere that's been created, the stress that Kyle's under, Sam again asks her to let him talk. She doesn't say anything, but she goes, I'm going to go and get an aspirin. I think that's her basically saying, right, okay,
here's your opportunity,
to have a chat. And as you say, yeah, it was a white guy, and the only thing he can remember is that he hid money in his shoes because he was on the ground floor.
He doesn't know if he had hair or if he did have hair, what colour it was, but he had shoes that had money hidden in them. You could see that money peeking out.
Mm-hmm. At the pharmacy.
This is ridiculous.
Sam is doing his
crime scene investigation.
He's being Columbo here, yeah, but without any of the charm or effectiveness. Yeah. He's looking around the crime scene, and Al, who's turned up, remarks that he used to hide money in his socks on leave in case he get mugged when he was drunk or whatever.
Yeah. Al at this point sinks into the floor to get a better look from Sam's perspective.
Yeah, but he's also a bit uncomfortable at the bloodied scene, which he says reminds him of his third father-in-law's place. But this didn't make sense. It was a funeral parlour.
Why is there blood in the funeral parlour? Is he murdering people?
Yeah, exactly.
That's grim.
Yeah, I would say that that's one of the last places you would actually see blood.
Normally, I would have thought. Anyhow, yeah, there's this weird juxtaposition of comedy and death as Al sinks himself into the floor for a different view, and then Sam finds a penny.
Yeah, he continues to do his Columbo thing, and he discovers this, but I don't think either he or Al think it's in any way interesting or related. But Al does say pick it up, and it's
good luck.
Good luck, yeah.
We then see Laura and Kyle in their car.
Yeah, they're on the freeway, and Kyle is complaining that they should have waited on Sam, but she snaps back that Chloe will tell him they're on their way to the cabin before apologising, and they both admit they're on edge.
What can go wrong with this plan?
Nothing whatsoever.
Back at the flat, Chloe does tell Sam that Laura and Kyle have headed to the cabin at Lake Arrowhead, but Sam decides with Laura out of the way, he's now going to call the police.
Yeah, she's not happy.
No.
It's against Laura's wishes. However, he is surprised to be told when he makes this call that a woman actually called 20 minutes earlier, and Ward is on his way to the cabin as they speak.
Suspicious.
Very suspicious. Well, at this point, you know what's going on.
Well, Chloe denies hearing Laura make the call.
That's an odd one, isn't it?
Well, Laura wouldn't make the call.
No.
She wouldn't phone the police.
Well, there only is two possibilities here.
Yeah. In case folk haven't caught down.
She doesn't deny it. She says she can't be sure because she was in the bathroom for some of the time.
Yeah, but she didn't hear Laura make a call. Sam asks, after an awkward exchange to borrow Chloe's car, that he helped her pay for, apparently.
But didn't know.
No.
If she had a car or could drive.
But she agrees that he can use it as long as she gets to come along, because Laura is her connection to discount on Armani suits.
It's a strange thing to say when this is the partner, the boyfriend of your friend.
He's high stress, and you're saying, oh no, I'm
she's on the run from a killer, and you're saying that, I can get cheap suits from her.
Al at this point heads off to centre on Laura and Kyle.
Yeah, they're on a sort of mountain, forest, isolated road or freeway.
Yeah. My first thought was, can Kyle not see him? Because surely he's about the same age as those kids that were in the church.
Yeah, but they make that, Al makes the point, doesn't he?
He immediately did make that point.
A couple of years too old.
Suddenly, for no apparent reason, they have to swerve to avoid a car that's going the other way.
Laura's, she's
distracted. Maybe?
Distracted on this very quiet road. She can't even drive.
Yeah, ends up at the side of the road, broken down.
Yeah, they're unharmed physically, but I think the car's been damaged. It's
out of commission. So Al then centres back on Sam and tells him he's about an hour behind them, and explains that they've had this accident, but they're fine.
Yeah, they're 10 minutes from the cabin, and Sam wonders how far Ward is from them. And as he does, we see a worried look on Chloe's face.
We do.
So Al centres himself on Ward, and this is when things take a sinister turn.
Well, how's it going, Flatfoot? Oh, there's the lake. You must have got on the road ahead of them. Well, now I gotta figure out a way to get you to turn around and go back, because they're in trouble back there. Let's see, mind over matter. Why don't you take your flat foot off the gas, put on the brake, take your flat foot and your penny loafer off the gas, put on the brake. Take your flat foot and your penny. Kyle said the killer hid money in the shoe. Oh boy. You murdered Phil, and now you're gonna kill a 9-year-old kid. You pimple. Sam!
Hey, 10 years off
The
me.
cop shot Phil!
What?
My age, I can't afford 10 years.
Detective Ward!
How'd you find out?
I lied about my age.
He was wearing penny loafers.
I'm really 33.
Penny loafers.
Yeah, pennies. Remember the penny you found on the drugstore floor came out of his penny loafers? So whoever Phil was supplying drugs to must have paid Ward to knock him off.
My God.
Well, isn't that bad?
But it's okay because he's almost to the cabin and they're 10 miles back and her car isn't going anywhere.
I assume I've not heard of this myself, but I'm assuming back in the day, absolute morons used to place pennies in their penny
You need
loafers.
to be a cretin.
That I can see it as a trend for the what is Americans call it, douchebags.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would have to be an absolute arse of a person to do that.
I can't imagine any motivation for doing it. No. Anyhow, we get another twist now.
We do. Unfortunately, Laura and Kyle have managed to get themselves a lift from a truck driver, and they are now at the creepy dark murder cabin.
It looks like a creepy dark murder cabin.
It's like something from Friday the 13th for sure. I like this sort of final act. It was nicely shot and set. It did create a bit of an atmosphere, which was nice.
They go in to the cabin after Kyle noticed it got dark fast.
It did get dark very fast. One scene, they were driving the daylight, then it was all of a sudden, yeah.
The lights aren't working there, and Laura has to go and check the fuse box, but she tells Kyle that the stairs are too steep, so he should just wait here on his own.
He watches her outside, hilariously seem to fall to her death.
Before she gets up, gives him a thumbs up and heads to the fuse cabin. At this point, she shouts on Kyle because the fuses are missing.
Is that what she was shouting for? Yeah. But just at that point, she's hit in the head and dragged off by Ward. An unaware Kyle is still looking out into the eerie scene when he's frightened by the sound of the door swinging open, and we see Ward enter with his gun out.
Yes, Kyle manages to outmaneuver him despite his physical disability and locks him in the living room before escaping out the front door through the dog flap.
Yeah, and like in a scene from Halloween, we see Ward smash through the door to try and get at Kyle before he makes this escape.
Sam at this point arrives what appears to be just in the nick of time.
Yes, he runs to him with the help of Al's guidance as we see Kyle stumble away, but he falls into a stream in the dark.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. I think maybe the lake. Is there not a lake?
Is it a lake? Right, okay, yeah.
Anyway, it doesn't matter too much because Sam is there and is able to grab him.
Now, has Kyle saw Ward at this point?
I don't think so. I think he just knows there's something bad
You see,
happening.
I would be suspicious of Frank then, Sam.
Yeah, well, maybe. Well, I think maybe he is a wee bit. He's quite hesitant.
Well, he's obviously scared because a guy's grabbed him in the dark in a lake that he's drowning in. But after Sam, I think Sam puts his hand over his mouth to stop him screaming so that Ward can't find him.
Yes.
And he says, it's me, it's fine, and they calm down.
At this point, however, Ward shows up.
Yes, and understanding what is likely to happen, Sam asks Kyle if he has seen Ward before.
And Kyle says he doesn't, and Sam's making the point to Ward that he doesn't recognise you, he can't identify you.
But this doesn't satisfy the dirty cop, who rightly points out that whilst Kyle might not be able to ID him, Sam knows what's happened, and so he raises his gun to finish them off.
But before he can, it's the usual...
Well, we hear a shot ring out.
Yes. It's not them that are dead, though. It is Ward. And we assume Laura has saved them.
Yeah, after we see Ward fall to the ground from the bullet, we are then presented with the apparently heroic Chloe.
What happened?
That'll teach the bastard to take a shot at me.
Chloe, you are one hell of a woman.
Uh-oh.
Too bad Ward didn't realize that.
You called the police, didn't you?
Sort of. I told them I was Laura and on my way up here.
And she knew that dirt badge was the killer?
You hired him, didn't you?
And I thought you only gave good hair.
And she was behind the whole thing.
You own a company named Eloc, and Eloc is an anagram for Chloe. How could we have missed that?
How could Ziggy have missed it?
We can't all be geniuses. Mommy! I'm afraid Ward bashed her brains out, kid. I really hate doing this. You're actually a pretty cute kid.
Just wait a second, okay? What? Who are you selling the drugs to?
Oh, she was selling to your customers. Hey, oh, you're stalling for time. Okay, I'm sorry.
No stalls, Frank.
Right.
A couple of things on this.
Yeah, I've got questions about... Okay, go for it.
Why did Chloe have to blow her cover here?
Yeah, that's a good point.
She's killed Ward. She's a hero.
Yeah. And I don't understand why she killed Phil. Like, I understand why they might think they've explained it, but I don't think they have.
Ward killed Phil.
Yeah, okay, so let's talk through what happened here then.
Okay, yeah, so Chloe is leveraging Phil's debt to get drugs that she wouldn't normally be able to get to sell to the customers of the salon.
Yeah.
Phil has said, I'm not doing it anymore because I've paid off my debts now, and Chloe has hired a hitman to kill him.
Why? What does she think is going to happen after? So she's now making herself a killer?
Yep.
For what benefit?
So, I don't know.
There's no benefit.
And where's all the money come from that she paid him? The 600 grand.
Yeah.
So maybe she's got people above her, and they need to keep this money. Maybe it's money laundering involved and other things like that.
Perhaps, but killing Phil serves no purpose for her. Other
It needs to
than...
be, unless it's a message to other people in a similar situation.
Perhaps.
Like, we killed Phil, so you stay in line.
Maybe, but that's not really...
It's not shown in the episode.
No. Because all she's doing is bringing a lot of attention on herself. If Phil says, I'm not doing it anymore, you say, fair enough, that's it. We got a good run out of you.
Well, on the other hand, Phil maybe knows who's buying the drugs, and is now a liability.
Yes, but Phil was selling the drugs, so
I suppose he's limited in what he can do.
Putting himself in jeopardy as well. So Phil was probably, quite quiet about things and happy just to walk off after paying off his debts through illegal drug transactions.
Maybe Ward went rogue. Maybe he was just meant to threaten Phil. Because I don't think he was meant to shoot Chloe either. That's why she's killed him at the end.
Yeah.
But then they would surely mention that in the episode.
I thought so. But no, your point about Chloe doesn't have to do anything at this point.
Yeah. She's killed Ward. She's now a goodie.
Yeah.
No one's going to suspect her, even though there's that odd question about who phoned the police.
Yeah, because that's the thing, that Ward knows what's going on. So Ward is her risk.
Yeah, and she can cover that by saying no one called the police. Ward's made that up.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's completely in the clear if she doesn't do anything here.
Yeah. Or at the very least, even if she admits to that, it's not an admission of her being...
She's just worried about Laura.
Yeah. Yeah, she's an idiot.
Yeah.
In fact, this gets her out of everything by being quiet.
Yeah, but she can't do it.
No, because she's a maniac. She just likes killing. She's a psycho.
But maybe that's her thing.
Possibly.
Anyhow, she is distracted, as we heard there, by a nearly dead Laura lunging at her.
Yeah, we see her stumble up behind Chloe with a log, but it's too weak to hit her. And I think she falls into the water herself. Laura does.
No, she just falls down on the ground behind Chloe.
You sure?
Yeah.
I thought she fell into the water.
No.
All right.
So Chloe turns back around to the water and Sam and Kyle are gone.
Only for Sam to re-emerge like Jason Voorhees with Ward's gun pointed at her. She goes to shoot and forces Sam to strike first and kill her.
He does ask her not to.
Yeah. Question here, I know you don't know the answer off the top of your head, but I'm wondering how many people Sam has killed so far on the show.
We talked about this once before, didn't we? We've probably run out of fingers.
Yeah, it's quite a few people.
He's prolific.
Mm-hmm.
And it never seems to affect him.
I think he's getting some sort of... Well, he can, in his mind, or ethically, it wasn't me, yeah. So it's like a free... It's like, I can kill people for like a computer game.
Yeah. Then I'm gone.
Yeah.
It turns out at this point that Kyle and Laura are not dead or injured. Well,
no, they're fine.
Laura's a bit injured, but she's fine.
A log fire and a brandy is all you need.
Later on, we see, I presume in the cabin, we see Sam tell Laura that she has a concussion and he's going to look after her rather than take her to a doctor.
Al gives us a summary of future events where Laura sets up a victim support group before she rightly remarks that she'd like to hear what a real doctor thinks. And Sam can't help himself here. He says, I'm a real doctor. Why? Shut up.
Yeah, he kind of covers himself saying, I am a great doctor for a hairdresser or something along those lines.
He should have said he's a doctor of love.
Kyle, the partner, is going to go in and win a Paralympic gold or bronze.
Yeah. So there's two things really stood out for me in this final scene. Yeah, he is going to win bronze in I think they call it the Special Olympics.
But that's a different thing.
Is it?
I'm sure the Special Olympics is for folk with not psychological, but brain issues.
Right.
I think the Paralympics is for disabled people. But it didn't exist at that time.
Well,
so
he wouldn't be in
the Special Olympics is the one that
he's not got brain injuries.
Shriver set up.
Right, but he wouldn't be in that then.
No, no. But maybe they're just envisioning in the future it'll expand to cover all sorts of things.
This seemed really weird. This was never ever mentioned, and it could have been part of the plot. So I saw him with his leg brace on. I assumed, just like a normal kid, he's got a broken leg.
Or being treated like Forrest Gump being treated for rickets or something.
Whatever, but it's a temporary physical condition.
Part of a treatment to fix it, yeah.
So, but now they've put this in that it's a long term, which is fine, but why would you not bring that into the plot
Well, he
here.
kind of do. So he's got this brace, which is why he's not able to say it was a different child that went to the pharmacy.
Sure, but that could just be a broken leg. Why is it?
It could be.
So if they had said that there was a more permanent issue, that in itself would have perhaps went to help justify her overprotectiveness, etc. But still, I don't understand why it was never mentioned that. Yeah, this isn't just a. Well, but anyway, that's that. Just odd.
Sure.
Thrown in at the last second. Oh, and he's going to become a special Paralympian. Really?
Well, initially he's going to be, I think, silver or bronze medalist, and then Sam says, rather than me teach you to swim, we'll get you proper lessons, and he becomes a gold medalist.
Now, this leads into my other issue here. He says that's the difference between a professional giving you tuition as opposed to your father. And Kyle go, oh, father, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And from this, Sam takes Al's advice or lead and proposes to Laura.
He's kind of stolen that moment, hasn't he?
I cannot believe this. The act of engagement of proposal, often, certainly in the Cinderella, the fairy book realities of life, could quite possibly be one of the memorable moments that you want to have. Landmark with your soon-to-be wife. Al has just went, yeah, you go and do it. So what happens, and this leads me on to another question, which we've probably covered before, but the real Frank is going back in. It's like, anything I should know? Yeah, Frank, you're now married. What? Yeah, we knew you did, so we just got Sam to do it for you. But I had a special idea. I wanted to take her to this place, which is important to me and important to her, and I knew all about it. I really, in the past, she'd said to me, whenever we get married, or if you propose to me, I want to do it in Paris. I want to do it at this place where my father proposed to my mother.
And there's no way that in 10 years she's not going to bring up and say, you didn't even do a good proposal.
And I know you didn't. Yeah, don't.
She's definitely let that linger in the back of her mind.
Al has literally just went, yeah, they do get married, so you may as well do it. It's not a big event, nothing important. Go on you go, Sam boy. You fire into that. Scandalous. Let's say you've got to tell him now. You're now engaged.
Just let him find out. Send him back and you'll figure out, I'm engaged, you want him?
Yeah. They should make him wait until he's got to marry her now. Go through all that hassle, the ceremony. We know no guy really wants to get through the whole marriage ceremony, do we?
No.
Absolute pain. Let Sam do it and then you can just transport me into the wedding night. Even that's not so good. Everyone's drunk. It's
overrated.
Oh, very much so.
Anyhow, Laura agrees to this proposal. Kyle is pleased about it, and that is Sam's prompt to leap.
Yeah, they have a group hug and he disappears. I think what we'll do, Ian, is we'll very, very briefly describe the scene next week because it's a big issue.
Yeah, okay, so he leaps into a hospital patient. It's a bit like the one when he was pregnant, maybe. She is told, it's over, you have multiple contusions, perineal tears, and he realises that he's a woman.
Yeah.
He says, not again.
A bit of comedy here, yeah?
That was a good subject to joke about because the policeman comes through and asks if she's been assaulted in this way previously.
Yeah. Okay.
But he's more specific.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that. It's they've obviously we've done the big one, but we've done murder before, racism, we've really covered that. What other gritty subject matter can we tackle? Bearing in mind, we're a daft show
light
about light entertainment about a guy running with a time travel with a pervy hologram. What's it?
I can't wait to say they fit in some comedic moments as well.
Okay, so yes, I'm sure next week's going to be interesting.
Okay, so bits and pieces from this week. What did you make of Laura's attitude to the police? Do you think she crossed the line by not calling them when she got shot at?
Yeah, I mean, I think up to that point, as you said, understandable why just keep your mouth shut and look after yourself. But you're not looking after yourself when you're being shot at in your own home.
Yeah.
There's nowhere for you to go. People, the killer knows where you live. You need to do something about it now.
Did you find Chloe a credible villain?
Chloe, no, not at all.
No. And this is another question I had. So, Ward, is he literally just doing murders on the side as well as being a policeman?
Yeah. See, that's the thing. That we only had Sam and Al's explanation to what their theory.
Yeah. We don't know why he's doing it.
Al could have, at the very end there, summarised the court findings or the actual what happened in the future, the facts.
But he didn't.
He didn't know.
Any other thoughts?
I enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun episode, and I liked the whole cabin ending.
Yeah, it was really
quite spooky and nice. Yeah, it took a few turns, but yeah, it was fun.
Okay, let's get some trivia then. Originally aired on the 16th of October 1991, directed by Scott Bakula.
Who? What?
We will save him for a future date. Written by Beverly Bridges, third of her 5. If you want to hear more about her, go back to The Great Spontini.
BB.
Laura was played by Doran Clark, or Doran.
Now, Laura, before you give us the trivia, she reminded me very much of an actress who's now retired, Barbara Stock.
Okay.
Probably most famous for Spencer for Hire.
Right.
But I really fancied Barbara Stock and quite fancied her as well, to be fair.
This was her only Quantum Leap, but she's also in a number of things that you enjoy. T.J. Hooker, Murder, She Wrote, one of your favourite films, The Warriors.
Yeah.
She's now 69. Her last screen credit was in 2000. Leela Ivey played Chloe. This was her second Quantum Leap. She was in the very first episode, Genesis. She played a woman called Lucy, one of the wives, I think, on the base.
Sure.
We didn't talk about her then, so we can do it now. She's in things like Big, The Addams Family, Golden Girls, Murder, She Wrote. She's now 65. She mostly does stage work these days. Her last screen credit was 2010. Kyle, played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt. We've talked about him recently on the Poker Face podcast, if you're interested. Did we mention that?
I think we covered it, yeah.
Columbo podcast feed. He's a very well-known face. He's appeared in things like Inception, 10 Things I Hate About You, Third Rock from the Sun, The Dark Knight Rises, Poker Face, and many more. He's now 42, right in the prime of life, in the prime of his career. That sounds a bit creepy. It's just because he's born the same year as me that I'm saying that. Detective Ward was played by Harry Groener. Groener? This was his only...
Groener and Moner.
This was his only Quantum Leap. He's also in Star Trek's Next Generation and Voyager, Patch Adams, Third Rock from the Sun. He had a recurring role as the mayor on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. More recently, he was in Oppenheimer. He's now 72, still active. The truck driver that picked up Kyle and Laura on the road, his name was Ralph. He was played by somebody called Stephen Kay.
Okay.
This was his only Quantum Leap. He's maybe best known as a director. He's appeared in some things, Lethal Weapon 3, Murder, She Wrote, Party of 5. But he's directed many more things. Get Carter, Life on Mars, Sons of Anarchy, Yellowstone. And he's married to Piper Perabo from...
Oh, Coyote Ugly, yeah. Oh, that's a big career he's got then.
Yeah, he's 60, still active. We've talked about Sam referring to the episode Future Boy when he's playing with Kyle. I think at one point Al taps Sam on the shoulder, which he shouldn't be able to do.
No.
I don't think we learned anything about Al or Sam.
Yeah, we did. Al's third father-in-law had a funeral parlour.
Oh, yes, of course. In terms of on this date, 2nd of June 83, the Air Canada Flight 797 disaster happened. 23 people died when a fire in a toilet led to a flashover when they closed the aircraft doors. That's really unfortunate. After landing. It led to major changes in aircraft safety rules and procedures worldwide.
Number ones in the US, it was Flashdance, What a Feeling by Irene Cara. Whilst in the UK, the top song was Every Breath You Take by The Police. Appropriately enough.
Okay, so next week, I'll not mention the episode name, but it's an episode where Sam has to hold his nerve and testify against a powerful man. So we will see you in 1980.
Until then,
cheerio.
Bye-bye.